Welcome to Paul versus Destin, the show where Paul and Destin fight to the death. Not really. Let's get into it. We got some good topics for today. I just like an excuse to play the intro. I really like the sound effect on it. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about Ubisoft's latest direction and how it's confounding. We're going to talk about Battlefield 2042 impressions from ourselves and also like what we've seen on the internet. We're also going to talk about reviews just generally, and maybe that's where we'll start. And we might talk a little bit about New World because I have been obsessed with it. But let's talk about reviews in general. There was a Washington Post article that came out recently, Paul. And basically it said that review embargoes are, I'm paraphrasing the entirety of the article. You should probably just go read the full thing. But review embargoes are bad because it forces you to play the game in a constrained setting. This is something I've thought about actually a lot. I've been doing I've done review events. I've done a lot of things like that. And I get where he's coming from. But at the same time, if you're working in a publication that pressures you to meet embargo, like if you feel you can't play through a 6 to 8 hour game in 3 or 4 days and be able to come up with a review.
Where are you getting 6 to 8 hours from?
Well, it depends on the game, right? Like if you're playing...
You're talking about Far Cry. That is like...
Well, how long's Far Cry? 2030?
I mean, so no. Well, he said he did 20... He put 25 hours in and got a third of the way through it.
So my point is, though, he was able to play through it. He said he wasn't at a point where he felt like he could release the review, so he kept playing. And that's how I've done all my reviews. Like that's how I do my Destiny reviews. Yes, I play a lot, but I wouldn't release a Destiny review until I played the raid because it was a significant portion of the content that I felt was important to experience and complete before releasing the review. So I think the issue here is two things. One, some publications say you have to hit embargo, but like if you push back as a writer and just say, well, I can't, like if you're playing New World and the embargo's a week after the game comes out, it's just not possible. Well, maybe it is for Gathalion, but I don't know. It's sort of a weird thing. And the point I'm trying to make is I do admire it when people give you the time to play through a game. Like you get a review code a month in advance or 2 weeks in advance, and you're able to just play through it at a leisurely pace and really collect your thoughts and then put it out. But then separately, there's a publication side of things where, yes, it would be great to hit embargo, but if you're playing in a way where you're exhausting yourself to play through a game as fast as humanly possible, then I think you should not do that. Just don't do that. Right. But like saying that, fully recognizing the pressure. I fully recognize the pressure because like you want to be talked about, you want people to talk about your review, etc. What are your thoughts, Paul? Sorry.
So the difference is like you're coming at this from a perspective of IGN, and like I'm coming at this from the perspective of Forbes and someone who has like a following to a certain extent. I think what he's trying to cover are people that are maybe lesser known writers within a larger organization or with a lesser known site to begin with. And then on that side, you have pressure from your publication to hit the embargo because you want to compete with everyone else on SEO and you want to get your review up on day one with everybody else. And then you have also potentially pressure from the publisher side because they give you those embargoes for a reason. And like ideally, they want you to hit them in order for you to keep getting copies. And if you just keep, breaking an embargo is like the worst thing. But if you keep missing embargoes and you just like don't cover what they're giving you with early copies, there's also a chance that you may not continue, to be the one that sent those games if you can't do it and you can't meet their own timetable.
But
I think it's a little different. And you can't just be like, oh, well, I'm just going to take all the time I need. Like some people can do that, but I feel like that's not the vast majority of the industry.
Well, the industry is definitely in an interesting spot right now where you have people who just don't accept review copies. Like SkillUp actually chimed in on this, talking about how fortunate he is to be able to release a review whenever he wants. One of the reviews I did early on my channel was for The Last Guardian. I had like 20,000 subs at the time. The video didn't do a lot of views, but it was important for me to do because I love Fumito Ueda's work, and I just wanted to talk about the experience of that game. We can also talk about numerical scores, which I'm not a particular fan of. I think that reviews should be done from the perspective of you having a conversation with your friend. Would you recommend it or would you not? right? It's sort of a yes or no. And longer ago, when I was at Screw Attack, we had a buy it, rent it, or F it scale. And like that's what we would review on. So like, would you buy the game? Yes. Would you rent it to like experience it? Or would you just say F it, like don't touch this game, it's bad? And I actually think that scale is pretty good because it's more conversational.
The discourse about specific scores has become like almost untenable. Like you have to get above an 85 essentially, or like you're a failure, like in the eyes of the public. Like that used to be, you know, a very hard publisher metric where like bonuses were tied to it. But now if your game is reviewing below that and like certainly below an 80, it's like, I don't know. But like it's very frustrating because you feel pressure as the reviewer to be like, okay, I think this game is average, but like a 5 out of 10 is not average. Like I know that like, I mean, I think IGN even has this where like they list exactly what each number means on their own scale and stuff, but that doesn't jive with reality. Like a 5 out of 10 is like a disaster. Like it's not average. And like if a game got a 50 on Metacritic, a 5 out of 10, it would be like, you know, a horrific release. So like it doesn't work as the fundamental metric. And like this is why it's one of the many reasons I hate writing like full reviews at this point, and why I'm starting to avoid it more now than I used to.
Yeah, people will like kill themselves to hit embargoes, and I've done that myself. I like to hit embargo, and I do feel additional pressure to get there. Do I feel that impacts my review score one way or the other, though? For me personally, I don't think that sways my review score. My review score is usually based on my experiences and whether or not I've come away positively or negatively with my time with the game. Curse of Osiris, you know, I played through all of that, and I'm like, this is bad. Like, I didn't like what they had done with the game.
All of that was like 3 hours.
Yeah, and I gave it a low score. You know, I've reviewed mobile games that are just fine. You know, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the properties, but they're also not particularly compelling. And then I have reviewed disasters, like I did the base review for the Cyberpunk games, right? Which obviously didn't hit embargo because they didn't give anybody codes. So I think it's more important if you miss embargo by like a day or 2 days. I don't think the publishers are going to be like they're not going to blacklist you for doing your due diligence.
It's a weird situation though, because like, okay, here's what I found myself in with Far Cry specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I got the game a week early, like everybody. You know, I was happy to get it. I was like, that was a game I thought I was going to play and look forward to. I played it. I don't really like find anything actively wrong with it, but I zoomed out to the larger map of the island and I'm just like, oh my God, like there's no way. So I got maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 hours into it in a couple of days. And I'm like, I can't keep this up. Like New World was out, like Destiny was doing stuff. I'm like, I'm going to be sacrificing everything else in my roster to write one review, one article about this game.
Mm-hmm.
So what did I do? I wrote an article about that it was too big and that I didn't want to finish it instead of review. I wrote a tips article based on what I did know, and then I went and covered all those other games which I wouldn't have had time to do. But like now I'm worried, like, okay, I didn't actually write a review. I didn't meet embargo when they sent me a code. Like, am I going to get a Guardians code from Ubisoft now? Like, do they think I'm like a bad reviewer who's lazy and doesn't want to play their games? Like, that is something that at least runs through my mind. I don't know if it's true or not, but like I've been not given codes for less for sure in the past. So like it's something that like at least occurs to me in these kind of situations. And like, but like, what was I supposed to do? Like, you know, play 80 hours of that game, like to sacrifice everything else. It put me in a weird situation, and I didn't love that.
So did you do the review or no?
No, I wrote a couple articles about the game, and like I didn't trash the game. I'm like, this is probably too big and probably too similar to the last 3 games I played for me to like really invest any time in this. So like I didn't review it and give it a bad score. I didn't review it and give it a good score. I just wrote a couple articles about my thoughts and then some advice for players. But like to me, that was more useful based on my own experience and more worthwhile of my time than spending 80 hours for a 1,200 word review or something. Like it just, but like I'm in the fortunate position where like I can do that. Like I'm not answering to some, you know, editor or outlet that's like, you must, you got to get this review out. I don't have a deadline. So like I feel for the other people that are in that situation that cannot get out of it and are kind of stuck with these very tight deadlines in a way that I mean, I don't know if it affects your score, but I think it does affect your coverage, which is one of the issues that the Washington Post article was bringing up in the first place. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
a complicated topic, and reviews are not in a great spot right now, and I feel like they're only getting worse over time, honestly.
they talk about timing with embargoes, and I think that's one aspect of it. But then you have the other end of the spectrum where I've been at events where they bring you to a venue. It's like really nice. All the food you would ever want is there. Any drinks you would ever want was there. And all they want you to do is either stay in your room and play through the game at your leisure, or play during the multiplayer sessions if it has multiplayer during the multiplayer at the multiplayer area of the venue. And some people feel like that swayed you more to the positive. Now, I don't know about that either. Like, I think there's an argument that could be made for that, but like, if I don't care, for me personally, I don't care how much free ham you give me, right? Like, if your game's a pile of trash, I'm not going to just, oh, well, you gave me 5 pieces of ham at this event, I guess I'd better give it a good review so I can come to the next one. No, because it's your integrity, right?
But isn't there some amount of culling? So, like, say they invite 20 people, and like 5 people just give it an utter trash review after going to that event. Like, couldn't they cull those 5 people for next time and bring in 5 new people that are more likely to be favorable to it? Like, this is why, I don't know, like the review events always kind of weirded me out a little bit to that extent. I feel like with COVID, we didn't have really many of those at all, but that's always been a practice that's like, I can see how I wouldn't be bought by free ham or something, but like, it also seems a little bit kind of odd as a way to kind of present your game to people.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially in the age of streaming and stuff where it's like I mean, it doesn't even seem necessary anymore for most games. Like, there should be a way to get it to you wherever you are to some extent.
Well, with publishers, there's 2 whole branches now. There's traditional editorial, like probably you and I, and then there's the influencer branch.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my former colleagues, CG, I believe, worked in the influencer branch. Like, that's where he ended up after some time. I believe. I don't want to say that factually. I don't remember exactly where he wound up. But anyway, the point is that like there's definitely 2 ways of covering games right now. And if you look at like IGN's policies and you look at Polygon's policies, and they take a lot of effort and time to ensure that the editor doing the review is protected and shouldn't feel influenced whatsoever by those items. They even went so far one time where IGN just fully paid for me to cover a review event, so that there was no like issue with me going to the review event. So IGN
I can't accept free travel. Yeah, I can't. I literally cannot accept free travel. It's like in my contract that I'm not allowed to do that. So that's another reason I don't really go anywhere.
Yeah. So,
but like, it's
I am definitely coming from a position of, I guess, privilege, if you want to call it that way, because if I do, it's only one time I ever ended up in that situation, right, where IGN had to foot the bill for everything. But it's just like, I'm not paying for it, right? I don't know.
It's just a matter of like, even with YouTubers, it's like, does your audience trust you or not? And like, if you've given them a reason not to trust you, like if you took money for a game and then gave it a really good review and it's a terrible, like clearly terrible game, like people will call you out and probably not trust you in the future. But so that's kind of on you and at least for the YouTubers, like you and your personal brand based on like what you will accept and what you won't accept. Like, I personally don't think like if a company took me to an event, like that would make me biased or something, but I still don't do it because of the policy. But I think that's something that, the more established reviewers and YouTubers kind of have to establish that trust with their audience, as opposed to, because it's just such common practice now, it's like, it's almost unavoidable.
What, review events?
Review events, like influencer marketing, like all of that, like it's all kind of a big bundle now. And like before there was influencer marketing, it's like, oh, well, this game is running ads on IGN or GameSpot or whatever. So it's not exactly the same thing, but like some part of their company is paying some part of your company. And that's how we got into that one situation where like, was it Gertzman? I forget who it was, where like someone got yelled at because they gave, Kane and Lynch, where they gave it a bad score. They were running ads on the site and they had to put all that stuff. So like that rarely happened, but like the potential was there at least for that kind of thing to go wrong.
Yeah. Well, at least the outlets that I know, including us, we have some pretty strict guidelines on any sort of, like, if the reviewer is reviewing a game, they're not involved with any of the sales stuff at all. Like, and they usually aren't anyway. Like, it's, I don't know. But meanwhile, like, influencers, they are directly involved with sales stuff all the time, and they are actively taking money for it, and they disclose that publicly, right? It's sort of,
They have
it's
to.
just, yeah, they have to because of the
There's a lot
FTC
of
rules.
gray areas. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I think it's definitely a whole can of worms that has a lot of people interested. But like,
yeah, we're going down a few different rabbit holes here.
yeah, well, with review scores, do you like the number system, or do you think it needs to go?
I don't find it the most useful anymore, and like as a reviewer, I just stress out about it too much, like because I know everyone's just gonna scroll to the bottom and see what my review score is, or look on Metacritic to see what I gave it, and like I know what my score can do to like influence the perception of a game, to a certain extent, even if it's dropping the Metascore down a couple points, like if I gave it a super low score, and like it's it's frustrating because the way the system is set up now, it doesn't seem like you have that many options between like 7 and 9 for 90% of games, or else you're some huge outlier that like is either sinking a game or like praising it to high heaven to the point where it doesn't make sense. And like if you're giving a game a perfect 10, like you better hope that's like, one of the games of the year, or else you're gonna look like an idiot. So it's confusing, and I would rather personally just have a like, would you recommend the system, or would you recommend this game or not, or just have people just read the review and like take all the positive with all the negative. Like when I review movies or TV shows now, I never have number scores attached to those. It's just like, here are my thoughts on this. Like, take from it what you will, and kind of move on. Like it's only games, for me at least, that are still stuck in that system. Like obviously movies and stuff still has Rotten Tomatoes and things, but it's a similar problem in that industry too.
Well, for better or for worse, I don't think review scores are going anywhere. I think they're just something that are going to live on perpetually with the industry. I hope bonuses aren't still tied to them, because like, they're all over the place. You can look at a game could literally get 29s and 5 4s. And like, it's all, go look at any video game and the scores are just all over the place. Very rarely does the Metacritic average come out where there isn't any outlier that's at the bottom of the spectrum or at the top of the spectrum. It's a very strange system that I think Metacritic is broken for sure. Because
It's
then you have the whole user score problem where users
Well,
will often,
that's a
like,
whole other thing. Yeah.
yeah, like, user scores are often praising something or they're just purposefully tanking it. I don't know. It's definitely a whole can of worms. Let's talk about some of the other topics, because we went almost 20 minutes just on review scores.
Oh shoot.
When you
Okay.
start thinking about it, it's like, oh
There's
man,
so many
yeah.
there's so many issues that build on top of each other that
There's
that could be a
review
whole
events,
hour.
there's embargoes,
Yep.
there's review scores, there's, yeah. So maybe I'll come up with a better run of show for just a review topic. Let's talk about New World a little bit, because you and I have been playing it a lot. I'm at 100 hours. You'll be 100 hours by the time this airs. So 100 hours in, are you still loving it? I think I'm 44 and a half, maybe 40, almost 45.
Okay. I'm 43.7, I guess. I don't
I'm
know.
I'm trying to do
Um,
one level a day, so, and then
that's good. Okay.
yeah.
So I'm still playing it and enjoying myself. Loving it might be a strong word. Like I still find it engaging enough to keep coming back to. Like I haven't quit out of it yet. I was telling you before the show, I just ran into another kind of dungeon wall where
Both of
the main
us,
story
the
quests.
depths.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the depths. So like it's another dungeon. It's really hard. It says like recommended level is 40 or 45 or something, but you're telling me like you should be at least 50 to even try it, because
Yeah.
of how difficult it is, and like you got to find a group for that. And so like I'm kind of just occupying myself doing side quests and then making my own goals for myself. Like I hit 100 in mining and logging and harvesting, and I just hit 100 in engineering. So I'm trying to get myself star metal tools and weapons and stuff now. So like you kind of make your own goals, and that's an aspect of it I really like, and it reminds me of like RuneScape back in the day. But like it hasn't changed. Like nothing has changed, from 20 hours to 90 hours really. Like
Mhm.
the gear is a little better, some enemies are a little tougher, but like it is very fundamentally, I think, the same. And it's not like the story or something opened up and now it's fascinating. Like what it was doing right 50 hours ago, it's still doing right. What it wasn't doing right, it's still not. At
Yeah.
least for me. So
I Man, there's just something about it where I do really enjoy chasing that next level every week. The way I've been doing it is I'll sign on and I will basically do all the side quests in an area, and I've cleared out a few areas now. Just there's no more side quests there. I'm over in Weaver's Fen right now, trying to finish like the last few.
that's where I am.
Yeah, so I'm cutting down trees. I'm trying to get my skinning up, and then so I can build a bag. So I have to make like hundreds of pairs of shoes right now to level up my armor smith. It like that's something that it's a little bit like, all right, I understand it's an RPG and this is how you're supposed to do it, but I do wish there was a little bit more organic leveling into the armor as opposed to, well, you can't make anything that you would actually use until you're level 100 armoring. So go do a bunch of garbage until then because it's the optimal way to do it. Right. So I think there
Yeah.
are things in the game that just aren't, a lot of it's organically explained well. Well, I level up logging by cutting down trees, and I can level up, whatever you do when you mess around with the wood to make it lumber, etc. You level up that aspect of it, but some of it isn't as organic, like recipes for breakfast foods where you got to get sausage and certain herbs and spices like that.
Very convoluted, yeah.
It's very convoluted, and there's not even really a clear way like how I get those. I'm like, where do I get onions? Where do I get all this stuff? It's not described in the game, and even using the map tool that's out there is a little weird. So those are my biggest complaints with it. Separately, the constant wars, they're interesting and they're fun, but I think they're very quickly going to become not fun or interesting.
It just got patched. That was today's patch.
Oh, what did they patch?
They made it so you can't flip something into conflict as easily. So like it takes longer to put a region in a conflict state, which should theoretically lead to fewer wars, less often. So I mean, we'll see if it works, but
yeah,
I
they were
think
literally every
what they
few
did.
hours.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it's like and territory control is so important because like your taxes go up and everything costs way more and you can't transfer. It's like it's a whole thing. So I think having more stability there, making wars more of like a weekly event or something as opposed to 4 wars a day or something is absurd.
Yeah. I am still having fun. Like I'm still enjoying leveling up all these things. It just kills me that there's not a story that I love. Like that still really, really bothers me. And I'm kind of wondering like, so once I get to 60, because I've set it in my mind, I am going to hit 60 in New World. So I'm set up for whenever the next thing happens in New World. And I want to make sure I have a good gear score and I want to level everything up. But one thing that really took the wind out of my sails, like almost completely, Paul, was when they said server transfers will not be allowed between regions, because originally they said you can server transfer wherever you want. We don't care. But now they're saying you can't between regions. So I have like 10 friends who play together all the time, and I picked the wrong server when I started. I'm 100 hours in, and now I can't move that character over there. I am hoping that they announce that regional server transfers are coming. But right now, I'm just like, well, I guess I'm stuck here or I have to make a new character. And that's not happening. Right. Thankfully, I have found out that one of my viewers and Fran is actually on my server. And
Fran's on your server.
That's why when the reason I made it
great.
there is because it said 2 of your friends are online. And I'm like, oh, that must be my buddies who are like really hardcore into MMOs. No, it was Fran and Chibi. So yeah.
So I'm pretty new to the whole MMO scene in general. So the server I picked was just like the one I could get into with a low population. Like I didn't even really understand I was going to be locked into that forever. So I'm on like a half Spanish language server, like in NA East here. And like this is something that bothers me coming to this as like a Destiny player, where it's like, I would love to play New World with you. That would be fun. We could go do some stuff, but like we can't. We literally can't. Like unless I make a permanent region transfer to your region and like lose the progress my own guild has made in my region, and like it's whereas like Destiny, you could just in the age of like crossplay and like playing with everyone, this seems so archaic. And like I don't know if I've heard other MMOs do this somewhat better, but it just seems really backwards to me that like I know so many people playing this game and I can play with 0 of them. And like even if I transfer servers, I can only play with a handful at a time, maybe, and then to just transfer again, and that's the whole process. Like I maybe it is just an MMO thing, but
It is.
it
It
seems like
is.
New World is doing it a little more backwards than even some other MMOs.
They are allowing transfers very soon, I believe next week, within your region. They delayed it because there were
Right.
some issues, and that's also when they announced that they wouldn't allow cross regional transfer. So like I'm on a West server, I can't go to a East server basically because all my friends are on the East Coast
Right.
apparently. So that sucks. But I'm just trying to make the best of it. I'm not in a half Spanish server, thank goodness. That would be really challenging. I don't know Spanish that
I mean,
well.
I turned off global chat because it was half Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, so I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
So how do you find a group for like a dungeon?
So I joined a random what are they called, company that recruited me like right at the start, and they had a cool name. So I'm like, all right, fine, and they were speaking English, which I understand, and I'm like, okay. So I joined them, and the only time I've ever played with them was to do the first dungeon. So like that was
Yeah.
when I actually got a group together because like I don't really need them for most other content, but like that was the only time. And now theoretically I'm gonna have to try and see if I can do it with them again. But like we're not exactly, I don't know any of these people. Like they're not like it's not a tight knit
Yeah.
group. It's just like some randoms, and like everyone's very friendly and no one's been toxic or anything. But it's just I would rather be playing with people I know, especially given how many people I know that are playing this game. It's very frustrating, and that may be a reason that I don't stick with the game in the long term.
Um, all that said, all the negative stuff said, I don't know why, but I can't wait to play it again tonight. Like I every night I look forward to playing a little bit more, leveling a little bit more, figuring out a new thing in the world, and that hasn't gone away. I still love like I know it's annoying if you're just focusing on cutting down trees, but I've been doing it casually, so I still like watching the trees fall down. it's
Yeah,
still
still
it's
good. It's still good.
yeah, it is annoying that you have to be level 100 to cut down the fancy trees or
Blue
110.
trees. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
got there, but
And
I can't make blue planks because none of the bases have high enough like wood cutting booths or whatever that I go to. So that's one thing I don't like is like I keep hitting these levels and then I can't even do the thing I was leveling for unless I like scour the entire map for like the one place that has been like upgraded enough to actually do the thing I need it to do. So
yeah.
that's been kind of annoying so far.
So new world update for me. I am sort of questioning like should I keep going to 60 or should I stop? I probably will until Forza comes out, right? Cuz Destiny
You're
doesn't
almost
have
there. You're like 15 levels away. You might as well.
well, yeah, but like
It
it's a
slows
big
down.
grind
Yeah.
per level and your progression slows down. The most effective way to do it is dungeons, and I cannot find groups that just want to farm dungeons cuz like the one I wanted I'm at a level where I should be running depths. Nobody wants to run depths because they feel like it's too hard. There's apparently a big DPS check in the dungeon. So like they're
Well,
like,
maybe they'll
"Well, if you're
nerf
not
it.
45, we don't even want to talk to you." Right?
Yeah.
So I'll probably hit 45 tonight, and then maybe I'll see if somebody will run depths with me, and I can at least see what everybody's talking about. But even last night I ran Shattered, I think it's called. I don't remember the names of these things. There's Armine, Shattered, and Depths, right? And
I
then
don't know
there's
what
another
Shattered
one.
is. I know what Armine is.
Yeah, and then there's another one
Must have
after
missed
that.
Shattered.
The problem with Shattered is you have to do this whole quest line to even get access to it, and it like you would never know. It's some random person in the world who you have to encounter, and then he has you go to all this. It's a side quest, right? And there's a lot of good stuff hidden in the side quest. So I just do every side quest now because I'm like, well, I just want to make sure I have camp tier 4 so I heal faster or whatever. I don't even know what camp tier 4 does, but I
Oh, is that
want
what
it.
goes? Yeah, I just
Yeah.
got that. I'm like, I don't know what it does. I have a bigger tent now. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So
But
it's good, but it's not. That's what my review is 100 hours in. It's like it's the best thing ever, and also it's tedious, but like I don't hate it. I don't know. What's your
it's tedious in a way that I find almost therapeutic.
Mhm.
Like I think the feeling you're describing about like you're looking forward to playing it every night, making progress. It feels like you can just you're constantly in forward motion. So no
Yes.
matter how long you're playing, even if you got 5 levels of logging or something, in a session, like that is something meaningful you can accomplish. Or if you finish a couple side quests, like you are always moving forward. Whereas like, Destiny, you could grind for your god roll all night and essentially get nothing, and like you're not really making any meaningful progress. So that was like quote wasted time in a way that like New Worlds, you are leveling something at all times. If you are like in motion, you are doing something productive.
Yeah,
It could
and
be, yeah. There's so many things you can do combat, you can do crafting, you can do your town, whatever. So
Well, on that note, I was talking to another friend today about this, and I realized something about that New World is really giving me right now that Destiny is not, and it's the level game. I love chasing the new max level, and Destiny's current system of, well, you have to get a drop in so and so slot. I realized I'm like, oh, that's why I don't like that so much. It's because I could go do every pinnacle activity for the week, right? And I could not get that drop. And that happens often to a lot of people. It's like, I've run, I don't know, I got to like 20 something clears of Vault of Glass and I haven't gotten Vex. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. I just like, if the game just like won't give you the thing that you need, it gets to the point where when you do get it, you're almost indignant. Like, yes, I deserved
There's a
this.
line you cross. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
there's a
like,
line
okay,
you cross
finally,
where
Jesus. Yeah.
it lost the awe that like when you got Galahorn, you were super excited about it to get, right? And now it's just like, this is the only exotic I need. Seriously, the only one I need is Vex, and I can't get it. I've done 20 clears. Like, it feels wrong. It doesn't feel right. So I'm not
I
making
can
any
see
progress in
I
my
can see New
slots.
World turning into that in Endgame. Like once you hit 60, once you've got all your leveling stuff
Yeah.
maxed, like maybe then it does turn into like I need this drop from this dungeon. I gotta run this dungeon a million times. So
Yeah.
like part of that may just be like Destiny's 4 years old. Like
Mhm.
and that's kind of where we're at now. So I guess we kind of have to see how New World shakes out in the end game. Because still we're technically only a month into it, which is nothing in the grand scheme of how long these games are.
Yeah.
So I think we're still good on that front for probably another 100 hours at the very least. But once we're kind of maxing all this stuff, it's like what do you do from there? And I guess that's when expansions and stuff would come in to raise the level again and like keep it going. But that's something I'm curious to see how they handle that.
So I'm spending all this time in New World, and Endwalker is right around the corner for Final Fantasy. And in the back of my head, I'm just like, should I be playing Final Fantasy instead of New World? Because
I can't.
the main problem I ran into with Final Fantasy is I finished the main A Realm Reborn storyline, and it's decent. And then there's like this interlude that I want to finish, and then the really good stuff everybody tells me about is there. But that's like 20, 30 hours away because I have to grind levels, and I get really bored just grinding levels in that game. So one thing New World is doing really well, I feel like I'm being well rewarded for the side quests, and if you've leveled up an area, you get more XP for completing those side quests. And I know
That's the thing is like, and
Final
you can
Fantasy
do whatever
has a
you
lot of
want.
those systems. Go
Well,
ahead.
I don't know how Final Fantasy works, but like in New World, like you can be doing any of this stuff, and it's still giving you XP on some level. Like you could
Mhm.
spend all day cutting wood and mining and crafting, and like maybe it won't give you as much XP as side quests or dungeon farming or something, but like you're still getting XP. You're still making progress, and every time you hit like a level metric, you'll get a couple hundred XP or something. Or I just I crafted 50 wooden bows to get my engineering up, and it gave me like 3,000 XP, which is as much as a quest would have. So it has a lot of those systems where it keeps rewarding you pretty much no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. Paul, I might break this next one out for its own thing, but you and I wanted to talk about Battlefield 2042.
Oh man.
And, the beta ended like last week. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for you and I to talk about our impressions of the game. Now, I played it. I did get the tornado. It was cool. I was able to, I mainly messed around as a sniper. I found great enjoyment of sniping people from very far away. I've played enough of Battlefield where I get the fun of it. I understand why it's entertaining. My first few games were not that fun because I didn't know what was going on, but I figured it out and I'm like, okay, I see the fun here. However, there's a lot of technical problems with this game where like jets are like hopping all over the place, and tech wise, like it just doesn't feel polished. And yes, the build is old, but after the Halo Infinite flight, a lot of people are like, yikes.
All
To
test builds are old.
2042.
That's like the point of a test build, like a beta build. It's old, like by definition. So it's I don't know. I'm concerned about it in the sense that we've had really rough Battlefield launches in the past.
Mhm.
There's like rumblings that like this beta isn't even as old as like it's supposed to, like as we think it might be, like, and it's unclear how many issues will be fixed by launch. But again, like there was a lot of legitimate talk of people being like just delay it, and yet that seems kind of impossible because we're like essentially a month away from release. And even as late as Halo Infinite was delayed last year when it looked bad and was getting poorly received, that was still 3 months ahead of launch. This is 1 month. Like it
Mhm.
is, it's over. Like it's coming out. Like I don't think they have a choice now, and it was already pushed a little bit. So I think it already had pretty steep competition. Anytime you go up against Call of Duty, it's a big deal. But
Well, Call
Halo
of Duty's
Infinite,
not looking hot either. Call of
no, I
Duty,
mean Call of Duty
yeah.
doesn't look good either. But like by default, Call of Duty is going to sell. So like
Mhm.
the narrative, I mean, the narrative I keep seeing is like how much better Halo Infinite seems to be shaping up than both Battlefield and Call of Duty. Whereas like Battlefield had all these technical problems, and like no one is talking about Call of Duty Vanguard at all. Like for at least in my circles, like I don't know the hardcore Call of Duty fan base, but like compared to Halo Infinite, it's just none of these games have anywhere close to the buzz of that.
Mhm.
And obviously those are games you can play on PlayStation, and Halo you can't. But it's kind of amazing the narrative that has taken shape with these three games that are all coming out within a couple weeks of each other.
As a personal consumer, my personal opinion, I would not buy Battlefield. Like I wouldn't spend money on it if given the choice, and I also wouldn't buy the new Call of Duty. They're just not for me. Forza would be a day one buy for me, and Halo Infinite is free. so
You don't
like,
have to buy it. Yeah.
gee, do I want to spend $70 on Battlefield, or do I want to get in there day one and start playing Halo Infinite multiplayer? Well, I mean, like, why would I spend? And I think EA is one of the companies that does the $70 game thing. I can spend 70.
Are they? I was wondering. Yeah.
I think they are. Well, okay, $60, $70 on Battlefield if you're
Either
playing
way,
on console,
I'm gonna
or
look
if you
it
or
up.
if you're playing on PC, let's say it's 60. Do I want to spend that? Or do I want to play Halo Infinite for free? Halo Infinite, which is like getting rave reviews, everybody's having a blast, or Battlefield 2042, which is looking like it might be rocky at launch. I know there's going to be a lot of Battlefield people playing Battlefield. I know there's going to be a lot of people playing Call of Duty, but for me, if I'm going to play Call of Duty, I'm going to reinstall Warzone. And Activision doesn't care. And if I'm going to play,
It's $70. It's $70 on PS5 at least.
yep.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. So free Halo Infinite, literally free. It's not like it's not part of Game Pass or anything like that. It's just a free game to play. It's free to play. If you want to play the campaign of Halo, that's on Game Pass, or Battlefield, which looks like a mess.
Battlefield
I
is
don't.
definitely in like wait to see how it is
Yeah.
now status. Like this
Yeah.
is where, going back to reviews, this is where reviews are gonna kind of have to be necessary for
Mhm.
people to be like, is this game remotely improved from the beta, or is it still like kind of disastrous like that was? Like that is going to be really important to see here.
This is a game where I would actually advise. Well, I don't ever recommend pre-ordering, but if you're concerned, I believe you can still cancel pre-orders, right?
Yeah.
So if you're concerned, there's
don't know
no
why
reason
you
to
would-
pre-order anything. What, you want a metal gold hat in your game? Like, who cares? Like, all that stuff, it's so... How many times have those pre-order items been something that you've used for like years to come? Because I pre-ordered all the Destiny stuff back in the day. You know how many times I used that stuff? I never, ever used it. I used the ice emote like 4 times and then never again. So like...
I got all the pre-order bonuses with Far Cry, and they were like way better than the weapons I had at the start. I'm like, I don't even want to use these. This is weird. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is a debate about pre-order bonuses from like 2013 because like we've been
all over
debating that for so long. I feel like
so. I'm going to say something controversial though. My Battlefield experience was not as negative as everybody else had. I was able to shoot people just fine. It was real cool when the missile
but you
blew
still wouldn't
up.
recommend it. Like,
Oh, I wouldn't recommend it. Like,
what does that tell you? Then?
For me, like,
yeah.
So there's 2 things going on here. If you're a Battlefield fan, I'm sure you'll be happy, right? It's Battlefield. It's every Battlefield that I've played.
That's the other complaint I hear is like it's not really as Battlefield as it was, and like all these. Did you hear the rumor about how it started as a battle royale, and like that's why you're parachuting onto the map and stuff, and like airdropping all the time? Like
they did a battle royale for the previous game, so I believe that. Sure, why not? The map is huge. Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I'm hearing is like even hardcore Battlefield fans are like, this is not really what we wanted, and like they changed too much stuff again, and they won't just like let what works keep working. So,
well, I apologize.
iffy.
I'm trying to convey a few things here. What's my personal take? I'm not like, if you give me a code, I might play it a few times, but like, I'm not super compelled to play that when I have a Halo Infinite right there. I have Forza right there that I would literally, I cannot wait to play. Right.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, even if my choice was Battlefield or Spider-Man 2, if we want to talk about a PlayStation exclusive, I would play Spider-Man 2 over Battlefield. Like,
Oh yeah,
it's just low on my choices. And right now, like, Far Cry 6 is sitting on my 2 playlist, right? It's a really bad window to compete in, I think. And this whole beta thing was a little messy. I was all over the place on that one. You still want to talk about Ubisoft?
If we have time, I could do a whole show on Ubisoft, but like the reason I brought this up is today they announced that their Ghost Recon Battle Royale is like getting delayed and reworked, and like this is their third Battle Royale where they have done Hyperscape. Remember that game?
Yeah.
And then the Division Heartlands, which could be okay because it's like technically based on the Division survival mode, but like, and then they're also doing this Ghost Recon thing. And then like it feeds into like the other areas of Ubisoft where now I'm like, Far Cry was just such a, it may have been like a good Far Cry, but like it is so similar to the other games in so many ways. And then whatever's about to happen with Assassin's Creed, like Assassin's Creed is service now. Like Ubisoft just seems so all over the place, and like they really feel like they are trend chasing kind of harder than any major studio I've seen. Like they're trying to make Assassin's Creed live service to compete in that market.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to compete in the Battle Royale space that is already kind of fading. I mean, to be honest, like it's, the height of the Battle Royale craze was like 2 or 3 years ago at this point. And then, Far Cry, they don't even know what to do with, so they're just leaving it exactly the same. So I don't think they have really good direction as a company or really know what they want to be or what they want their super franchises to be. And like the big obvious stuff, like make a Splinter Cell game, like they won't do it or don't even have the ability to make the Splinter Cell game people want to see. And then stuff that does look interesting, like what's the Beyond Good and Evil 2, like
that's gone.
disappeared from existence for some reason. Like that was the most interesting thing they had come up with in years, and it's vanished. Like I don't even know if it exists anymore, genuinely. So like they're in a very weird spot. Like granted, a lot of the mega studios are like EA might lose FIFA, Activision's being investigated by the US government. Like all these big companies have issues, but like Ubisoft lately has really stuck out to me as like, what are they doing? Like what is going on with this company? Like what are they trying to achieve here besides just like kind of chasing trends that are like 2 and 3 years old at this point?
Well, Ubisoft is sort of a double-edged sword. They have their own internal issues that they have to deal with, that they are investigating or whatever. Not as bad as Activision, in that the government isn't investigating Ubisoft, but they are investigating Activision, but it's still bad, right?
Yeah, it's still
so that's going on at Ubisoft. But if you're just talking about concept-wise, who the hell is Tom Clancy X Defiant 4? That is such a game that doesn't know what it wants to be. And I've had this conversation.
I forgot about X Defiant.
Yeah, I've had this conversation 2-3 times this week.
Yeah.
It's just so boggling because like then Frontline comes out, they're like, we're doing Battle Royale with Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Frontline. It's like, just make a freaking Ghost Recon game.
Yeah.
Like that's not what Ghost Recon is. And like, I even said on Unlock this week, I don't even want you to touch Splinter Cell because God knows what you're going to do with Splinter Cell.
It'd be like live service Battle Royale Splinter Cell, yeah.
and the other problem
and like
is
Splinter Cell showing up in X Defiant in a way, but
God,
like that's exactly what we mean. Yeah, it's like everyone wearing Sam Fisher helmets and stuff. It's although I just realized I screwed up at the beginning of this. I was talking about Far Cry, and then I'm like, I didn't know if I would get a Guardians of the Galaxy code. I'm like, that's not even Ubisoft, that's Square Enix. I totally fixed that up. So I'm sure I'm gonna get roasted in the comments for that. But
well, the other problem is Watch Dogs is Assassin's Creed is Far Cry. They're using these
I forgot
assets.
about Watch Dogs completely.
They're all the
Dogs
same
just
game.
Didn't really make an impact. Yeah,
they're all the same game with a different skin on them, right? Far Cry's jungle, I guess, but like there's some city parts and whatever. And then I just don't play those games because I'm like, oh, I played that game already. I played Watch Dogs 1. I played the Assassin's Creed games where you have to level up a character. And and they're selling well. They sell amazingly well, but I understand the fatigue coming to those franchises, but I know that before I buy it. If you're into that, great. You have 3-4 worlds where you can do basically the exact same thing. Guess what? I bet when I boot up Far Cry 6, they're going to make me level stuff up. They're going to make me liberate posts, and then I'm going to fight some big bad guy and kill them. But like when you boil it down like that much, that's describing a lot of games, so it's not really fair. But I think people
There's
get
no
what
vision
I'm saying.
towers, I'll say that. But
Yeah, it's everything's too similar, and there's a word for that when you're just kind of remaking the same thing over and over again. Assassin's Creed, when it launched, was so much different than Ghost Recon Advanced Warrior, and that was different than Splinter Cell, even though they're both like military based. And now everything is the same thing. And to see a derivative release with Ghost Recon Frontline, which basically just looks like Call of Duty, with stuff you can drop in, which also doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'm like, they're reworking it. Okay, well, like, don't make it a battle royale.
They want Warzone money. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's all that. Like, there are two things right now. Half of them is split between trying to chase trends, trying to get that live service like battle royale money, and then the other half is sticking with these giant sprawling open world Ubisoft games. Like, this is where I hit my wall. I'm like, I hit a wall with Valhalla. I couldn't do it. Like, it was fine. I was enjoying myself, and yet I'm like, I am 60 hours into this game, and there is no remote ending in sight for this. I'm like, I can't keep going. Mm-hmm. So that was the first Assassin's Creed game I've never finished after doing every other game. And then now I just hit that with Far Cry. I've done every Far Cry game to the end, and now Far Cry 6, I'm just like, I'm going to max out at 20 hours or whatever it is. Like, I can't do it again. And like, I personally, I guess I've just hit a wall with this format, and it was kind of reassuring to see. I saw a number of other reviewers, like even kind of mainstream reviewers, saying the exact same thing about Far Cry. Like, they can't do it again. Like, even if there are some minor changes here and there, it's just, something has switched. Like a switch is flipped in my mind, and like, I can't.
Wait a minute, I've done this 6 times this year.
Yeah, and people like would roast me because they're like, "Oh, you play Destiny? It's the most repetitive, game ever, and you're still running strikes from 5 years ago." And it's like, but it's not. Like, it's, if any game is constantly changing and adding new stuff, it's a game like Destiny, or it's these other live service games I play, Genshin and eventually New World and stuff. Like, these are games that are consistently changing and adding new experiences and stuff. Like, even if, yes, you will go back and do old stuff to some extent, it's totally different to me in a way that, like, even if this is a brand new Far Cry map that I technically haven't played before, or a new Assassin's Creed setting, it still feels the same. Like, I can't break my mind out of that box to like stomach it anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the Ubisoft conversation. They're not making original properties anymore. Everything that they've announced seems like a cash in, and fans are see right through it, and they hate it because they know
Beyond Good and Evil 2. That looked amazing.
Yep, they know what Ubisoft is capable of creating, because we all have the memories of our favorite Ubisoft experiences. Like, for me, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood comes to mind, Splinter Cell, the Splinter Cell series, and now they're just making derivative titles, and that's disappointing, depressing, and fans are not going to support it. I urge you not to play these games and not pre-order them if you don't want them, and keep being vocal about not liking this direction, because it seems like Ubisoft is taking notice, and that, like, Hyperscape did not do well, but they're going to try it 2-3 more times. They did it with a mobile.
Valhalla did great, so that's going to dictate.
If you're going to do that style, keep it in Assassin's Creed. Don't make it Watch Dogs and Far Cry and all your other games. They do that as a cost-cutting measure, right? So that they can make more stuff. But the problem is, like, you're eroding the creative level that you're known for, and that's not going to last long. And I don't think that's going to be good for Ubisoft in the long term, in my opinion, because they're eroding the true passion behind game design, and like why game designers do this stuff. Hey, make a derivative version of your dream game. Oh, well, that's my dream game.
They're not alone in it. I mean, we could say the same thing about
Call of Duty,
but like, It's that Ubisoft is like this with like 6 different games. Like
Yeah.
all of them are either derivative of themselves and their old games, or the derivative of like something else in the industry they're trying to rip off. Like it's there are very few things. The one game I think is the exception is the Immortals Phoenix Rising. Like that didn't do very well, but like that at least felt like they were trying to do something different. They were
It
going a
was
little bit Breath of the
praised.
Wild, but yeah, it was praised. It just didn't sell very well. So
Mm-hmm.
like that was one thing where they did kind of break out, and I'll give them credit for that. It's just that I guess they weren't rewarded with sales and stuff like that. So
Bringing it full circle, that's really what it comes down to, right? You talk about reviews and hitting embargo. It's about money. And Ubisoft is doing this because they have shareholders to answer to, and they want to make more money so that they can post bigger numbers. But at some point, you got to realize like, okay, well, is that what we're going to be about? Or are we going to take a stand and say, well, I want to create good work, you know? And I like,
yeah, and you can't do that by just chasing other successes, like chasing your success from 8 years ago or chasing the success of whatever battle royale down the road. Like it's not going to work out like that.
yeah. Anyway, Paul, this usually we only do these for 30 minutes, but
That was a wide range of topics. Yes, that was probably too many.
next time we'll
But
keep it
okay.
to 3. We won't do 4
Okay.
next time. I probably could just talk about New World for 30 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to do the outro hit and then we'll do the true outro. Paul, where can people find your stuff?
I'm at Poltassi on Twitter. I'm currently running a Destiny fashion Halloween contest that you should enter and
Yeah.
win lots of fabulous prizes. And then I'm Poltassi on YouTube, and you can just Google me for my written articles that are out every day.
And you can find me right here. Thank you, Paul, for joining me. Glad your PC's all fixed. I hope the new rig's working out well.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
Shout out to Power GPU. I'll get out of here. I'll see y'all for the next one. Bye for now.